resume your cross-examination
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
of the plaintiff, Ms. Klein. I remind you, ma'am, you're still under oath.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good. All right, I think we left off, we've gone through, you identified the store report. I think it's marked as defendant's exhibit, A for identification. And you mentioned that your signature is on page 2?
That's correct.
Under the narrative that was written by Gavin Crow, the manager in training.
Yes.
Okay. And now were you interviewed by both Gavin and Alana?
Yes.
So you spoke with both of them?
Correct.
Okay. And I think you said, well, you know the managers were taking photographs as well, right?
Yes.
Do you remember if Gavin took photos or Alana?
I believe it was Alana.
Okay. All right. Do you remember what you said at your deposition?
Oh, who took pictures?
Yes.
I believe it was Alana.
Well, I think your deputy said you weren't sure it was one or the other. All right, but today you think it was probably Alana.
Because Gavin, I believe, was taking that.
I see. In any event, whoever took the photographs, we've marked these as defendants exhibit C1 through C6. And you certainly had an opportunity to review these. Right? They're all true and accurate depictions of the scene that day. And one thing counsel asked you yesterday, said when you were sitting there waiting for the manager, this wasn't a selfie, the managers took the photo. You're not sitting there, you left some impression that you were sitting and waiting. I mean, they responded very quickly to the scene, but they're not.
They did.
Okay. So again, whether it's Gavin, whether it's Alana, that's who's taking the photograph. Right? And that's who gave you the ice pack?
I don't remember who taking it.
Okay, but it would have been one of the managers too.
Correct. Like I said, that was the second ice pack that they gave me.
Okay, and C1 here, obviously that's you in the center, sitting in the chair, holding the ice pack. Your kids are on the left side of that photo.
Yes.
And I guess that's your husband. Yeah, your husband's arm and partner's head.
Yes.
And then over on the right side, that's your cart. And then the little cart, I don't forget what you call them, but that's the cart your daughter was pushing.
Correct.
And this is near the area where your fall occurred.
Yes.
Okay, again, we're in the frozen food aisle.
Correct.
And there's actually a couple frozen food aisles there, right? So this isn't the very last aisle, it's the next to last aisle.
Right.
Alrighty. And that also shows the tile floor.
Yes, it does.
Some blue and white.
Correct.
Okay. So when you mentioned earlier that you couldn't see the water because the tile was all white, that was a little bit of a mistake. Is that right?
It wasn't all white. It might have been right where it fell, but yes, there were sections in the aisle of different colors between the blue and white.
Okay, but when you said in your statement that you couldn't see it because the tile was all white, it was a bit of a mistake. The tile's not all white. True?
Sure, there are different sections of
Okay. And C2, similar picture, just a slightly different angle. I assume that's your husband's left foot there in the shorts.
yes.
And your daughter smiling.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, were you carrying anything at the time you fell?
No.
Okay, so no purse, no keys, nothing like that.
No.
That's a C2, if I didn't mention it. C3 again, you're seeing location, just a different angle again. Shows the cart. Shows what's that on the bottom of the cart?
The reusable bags.
Oh, okay. Shopping bags.
Yes.
Gotcha. And again, you from a different angle. It also shows your flip-flops that day. That was C3. Let's go to C4. I wasn't sure if I'm mentioning them before we looked at it. C4 again, same location, different angle. Cart, and this is where you're saying that you put your foot up on the cart to elevate a little bit. Okay. Now, how far away were you from where you got the spinach when you fall in?
finished, it was at that end of the aisle.
Closer to the direct entrances?
Correct. Close to where I left.
That was
Chicken
C4.
wings.
And you got this finished when you were still with the cart and the family. Okay. C5 is again another view, just looking down at showing the floor and your legs, daughter's legs, and the bottom of the cart. Okay. Generally speaking, as well as the tile. And then C6 kind of looks all the way down the aisle. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, is the photographer looking towards the back of the store or the front of the store?
Front.
So again, so the front of the store towards checkout would be the south.
Correct.
Okay. And these are the, I guess, sandwich boards that were put out there, the caution, left floor kind of signs
The one.
that are in the lower right-hand corner of that. And I think further down, they actually go down the aisle a distance. There's been one of those little glass tent kind of ones.
Yes.
Pyramid, for lack of a better description. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, and you had no problem seeing that day in terms of your vision. Is that true?
Correct.
I mean, wear contact lenses, but you wear them all the time. No problem with the contact lenses. No problem with the vision. When you filled out the report or gave the information to Gavin or Alana, did you tell them that you couldn't see because of the lights?
I don't remember telling them that I couldn't see because of the lights.
Did you tell them you couldn't see because of the glare off the glass product case?
No, I don't.
You didn't tell them that either?
No, I did not.
Did you tell that to your husband that day?
That day, no. My knee and pain was my focus, and that was it.
Okay, but at some point you had, you finished the report, the photos have been taken, then you make your way to the front of the store,
Yes.
right? And said they got you one of those motorized scooters.
They got me to curb back in the aisle.
Yeah, it's more than scooters, a cart, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then from the store, I know you said you went to Burger King, the kids were hungry, and then you went home.
Right there in the home.
And then you iced your knee for a period of time.
While we waited for somebody to come and watch the kids.
And then you mentioned that you had a bump on the front of your knee.
On the top here.
Yeah, you did that yesterday, your gesture for everybody to see, but basically the solid of your left knee, and it's on the very front of your knee
Yes.
that you had a bump. And that's where and you applied an ice pack. And then did you first go to the urgent care place?
On that day, yes.
Okay, then from there you went to the emergency room next?
No, that day was just urgent care, the immediate care at Burn Burger. And they did an x-ray there and they saw a doctor there.
Right, and that's what they said, there's no reason, you got a contusion. And supposedly the x-ray was fine.
They said there was something broken in the x-ray.
So, in other words, the x-ray came back within normal limits, in medical terminology. So, after the urgent care place, is the next stop the emergency room?
No.
Where'd you go next to you?
That day, that was it. They told me to follow up with my general practitioner. So in a couple days, I had an appointment with Dr. Davidson.
That's right. Dr. Davidson was your family doctor general.
Correct.
And as I understand, he took x-rays too.
He did.
And he got the same result.
Yes.
Nothing on the x-ray.
Nothing on the x-ray.
Right. And then, well, then he told you that you had tendonitis.
He told me to grab a brace and give it some time. And if it still hurts, call him back.
True. I know you mentioned that yesterday. He said try one of those elastic braces.
Yes.
So you did that. Correct?
Correct.
And then yesterday you told us you learned from him that you had tendonitis.
I remember learning from Dr. Tremaine had tendonitis.
I see, okay. So was it still a contusion as of the time you're seeing Dr. Davidson?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a knee contusion. And how many times you saw Davidson? What, a couple times?
So the first time and the second time was just a phone conversation.
I see. And then the next stop was that been Dr. Tremaine?
Yes.
And you went to him because your sister goes there?
No, she'd seen Dr. Brown and...
His partner?
Correct, he was his partner.
Oh. All right, orthopedic doctors?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then it's Dr. Tremaine that that tells you that you have tendonitis.
Yes.
Now, did he do any tests too?
No, he did not.
But you did a hands-on examination?
Correct.
So at this point, you've learned you've got a knee contusion, you've got tendonitis. Is that right?
Yes.
At some point, somebody said, it could be a strain strain.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And after Dr. Tremaine, the next stop, Dr. Pitchford?
After doing therapy with Tremaine, then yes, Pittsburgh.
Right. You said you went to the therapy for a period of time, and if I understand correctly, the therapy helped somewhat, and other times it hurt?
Correct.
Okay. So mixed results with the therapy, and that led you to Dr. Pitchford.
Yes.
Okay. And how were you referred to Dr. Pitchford?
From two of the people in Dr. Tremaine's office.
Okay. And now he's not an MD, he's a DO, but he does orthopedics as well.
Yes.
An osteopath.
Yes.
He's a doctor of osteopath. All right. And you'd never seen him before.
Correct.
All right. But prior to actually seeing him, you'd also had some other diagnostic tests, you may not?
No, just the one MRI that Dr. Davis had ordered.
Exactly what was this?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. You had an MRI, you had the X-rays, but then you also had the MRI.
Yes.
Okay. And the MRI was, you were told the MRI showed that you had no recent injury, no acute injury. Were you told that it showed you had bursitis?
I don't remember that being early on. I remember that being later.
Okay. All right. And then you took that to with you when you went and saw Dr. Pitchford.
Yes.
And then Dr. Pitchford did his own test, his own hands-on examination, by the variety of things to check out what was going on
Yes.
with your knee, why you kept complaining. Right?
Correct.
And he looked at the prior testing you had, the film studies, those kinds of things.
He did look at it.
And so did he send you therapy too, or what else did he try?
No, Dr. Pittsburgh, since they just got done with therapy, he sent me for a bone scan.
Oh, that's right. You wanted to rule out, and actually you were present at the doctor's video deposition.
Yes, it was.
You mentioned, remember he said, I'm in the rule out phase at that point, I'm just trying to figure out
Right.
what's going on. So he was testing you for various other things, including metabolic disorders, things like that.
Yes.
And the bone scan was one of those kinds of tests.
Yes, it was.
And not only did the bone scan of your left leg, they did the bone scan of your entire body. Is that right?
They did.
And that came back wrong.
Yes.
So have you finished the film studies you had up to this point? Any other
At this
diagnostic
point,
testing?
blood work, but that was it.
Well, my question was, have you finished all the film studies?
Yes.
So you had some blood work done too, also to test you for some other metabolic conditions or other health issues you might have?
Yes.
All right, and then so there's been a hands-on examination by the doctors as well.
Correct.
All right, so is the next step then the first arthroscopy?
Yes.
Okay, and that was done I think in March?
March 18th, yes, on 2010.
Right. So your incident was August 16, 2009. So when did you first see Dr. Pitchford?
The middle of December of 09.
Okay, and then arthroscopy was about 7 months after the incident. I just counted on my fingers, but Chicago Public Schools.
Yes.
Yeah, am I right? All right, and by the way, that's same day surgery.
Yes, it is.
To go home.
Yes, it is.
All right, and How soon after the surgery did you go back to see Dr. Fishburne?
I had to do a follow-up the next day with him, a post-op, for him to check real quick, and then I saw him 2 weeks after that.
Okay, so a quick visit the day after, and then a couple of weeks later for follow-up.
Yes.
And all right, and generally speaking, you progressed well for a period of time, but then you started having some complaints still.
Correct.
And at that point, were you wearing any kind of brace? Anything like that?
When I came out for the 2 weeks after surgery, yes, I had an immobilizer, so your leg just stayed straight the whole time.
Like one of those Velcro structures?
Yes. That went from like your thigh down to your calf. I had that for the first 2 weeks and just a little bit afterwards, but otherwise, no brace with it.
And then you went, you eventually continued back with Dr. Fitchford, and you had some, which, by the way, did the contusion go down, the bump on the front of your knee?
The bump did gradually go down.
Okay. So then you started, you just went back to Dr. Fitchford, so I still have some companion on that.
After doing therapy with his group, I did therapy after that first surgery.
Sure.
And so he was notified the whole time of what was going on.
Right. But at some point, and actually it's later in the year, more towards August or so,
Yes.
let's go back to see the doctor again.
I returned to him.
So the surgery was what, March, April, May, June, July, August, another 5 months later. In fact, we're a year after the incident. At that point, he says, let's try another MRI.
He did.
So he had a second MRI done on the knee. And then eventually, he went in and did a second arthroscopy.
Correct.
Which, by the way, are very tiny incisions.
There's 2 incisions on each side.
Right. In fact, when he did both procedures through the same incisions.
That's correct.
Same place. All right, and then so similar thing. You see him the day after surgery for a quick follow-up, and then see him a couple of weeks later.
Yes.
And then you progressed with, well, that surgery was on September 23, 2010.
Correct.
And then it looks like your last visit with Dr. Fitchford thereafter was January 10, 2011.
I
Right?
did see him then, yes.
Okay. And then you didn't see him for quite some time.
I did.
And so at that point he said, yeah, I fixed that, that cartilage on the inside, inside back of your knee, the medial meniscus. Right? You learned that was
Yes.
part of this process. He mentioned some of these other conditions to you as well, LakeCo?
He did. He said he scraped some of the pipe off.
Okay. Did he mention the condemnation to you at that point?
No, he did not. He did mention, at that last visit, January of 2011, that he wanted me to try the Symbis injections.
Right, and we covered that a little bit yesterday, but then you didn't do that for quite some time. Right? And in fact, you didn't see Dr. You did go back to Dr. Fitchford until just this last year.
That's correct.
So you went, 3.5 years without seeing him? 2012, 13, 14? Yeah, you went back to him in March of last year.
March of 14.
Okay. So about 3.5 years.
Yes.
Okay. And you went and saw him at that point because the trial date was approaching?
No, I did not. Because I'm still having problems.
Okay, well, you actually stopped and seen these other people in the interval that you didn't see Dr. Fitchford. Is that right?
I'm sorry. I saw those people in between?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And what happened is that, whether it's a third or fourth opinion, you ended up going down to Northwestern and saw Dr. Bowen.
Yes.
Right? And you learned from Dr. Bowen that it's not the surgeries, it's not your meniscus. Is that true?
He said he didn't believe I needed another surgery.
Right. You said that's not your problem. You said your problem was physiological in nature. Is that right?
The issue was the dynamic of the leg wasn't going back together.
Right. You said that's the way you move. Right?
The way I move,
That's the dynamic. That's the structure. That's the interaction.
it's that the muscles that were atrophied, they needed to build up and everything needed to reconnect to make the knee work again.
Well, he told you needed to see a physiatrist rather than a surgeon. Is that right?
Yes.
Or I should say physiatrist. Sometimes they get that extra syllable. So again, Mark Brown's an orthopod at Northwestern.
Dr. Bone?
I'm sorry, Dr. Bowen. There's a Dr. Brown there too. But Dr. Bowen is the orthopedic surgeon at Northwestern. He says you don't need surgery, you've got to see a physiatrist.
Yes.
And then he refers you to Dr. Ellen Casey,
Yes.
and she's over at the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Bowen said it was actually just one visit with Dr. Bowen, right?
Right.
He said, nope, you don't need any more surgery. Meniscus is fine. The problem is the physiology, the dynamic of the knee. You're not moving properly. Words to that effect, correct?
So that affects.
All right, so he's able to tell all that just from one visit and his examination. Right?
Yes.
So then the next stop was Dr. Ellen Casey at the Rehab Institute of Chicago.
Yes.
And she didn't have to do any diagnostic testing on you. Well, she got a hands-on examination, right?
Hands-on.
So she didn't need any film studies or any of this other stuff.
No, she did not.
And she concurred with Dr. Bowen. Is that true?
Yes.
And she didn't even have to look at any of the films from your other providers as well.
Now I can take the history from what we gave or what we had just done.
Well, but see, the difference is when you give a history, it's your understanding or the limits of your understanding in terms of what happened to you as opposed to reviewing another doctor's chart of tests. Well, my point is she didn't review another doctor's chart or any of the diagnostic tests.
I don't remember if we brought the MRIs with us there or not. But
Right.
no, she did not review another doctor's chart, no.
All right, so she essentially tells you the same thing. It's a dynamic, it's the way you're moving, your function, how the muscles, soft tissue, and joints all interact.
Yes.
And she's the one who told you what you need is just a particular type of therapy.
She wanted us to try a particular type of therapy.
Quite different from the other kind of therapy you had. This is more just focused on a particular function, I guess.
Well, she was looking for somebody that just focused on this one area of my knee.
Right. And rather than have to go back downtown, she found this gentleman in Hobart.
Yes.
And that's Darren, that's not Darren Earnshaw. Okay. And so he went to Darren Earnshaw, and then he tried this therapy that was requested by Dr. Casey. Is that right?
Yes.
And as a result of that, you were pain-free.
We did go away for the way.
Well, no, you told us in your deposition you were pain-free.
For those that I was.
Yeah, he said probably within 2 weeks I was pain-free. And then he went back to see Dr. Casey. Is that right?
Yes.
So that was by November of 2011.
Yes, that's my professional therapy.
And Dr. Casey didn't schedule any other appointments for you? Right?
Correct.
Was the last time you saw her?
When was the last time?
That was the last time you saw her?
For then, I haven't seen her since.
Okay, but, oh yeah, she was about the injections.
She did the injections in
That's right.
2015.
Okay. All right, but so by November of 11, you had a good result with this therapy from Mr. Earnshaw. And in fact, your last visit with him was November 30, 2011.
Yes.
And in fact, when you spoke with Dr. Bowen about him referring you to Dr. Casey, he mentioned that she specialized in particular types of rehabilitation. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Oftentimes with women,
Correct.
due to the structure of women's bodies,
Correct.
the dynamic of women's bodies, right?
Yes.
And in terms of how the entire body functions together.
Correct.
Okay, so it's more than just your knee. He's saying it's the way your entire body is functioning and moving. Right?
I guess.
Okay. Alrighty, then, I know you had those injections with Dr. Casey. That's actually a couple years later. Is that right? Yeah, somewhere in 2013.
Right.
So you don't see Dr. Casey for the remainder of 2011 or 2012 or the first 5 months of 2013. And then you tried the injections in June 2013 and I guess July?
Yes, it's a series of 3.
Okay. And then the last time you saw Dr. Casey was in what, September of 2013?
Yes.
She didn't schedule any other appointments for you at that point?
No, she didn't.
The injections helped you?
They did not.
All right. But you haven't been back to see Dr. Casey since?
I have not. She had referred me to Dr. Atchison, who I saw, and he left me with come downtown 2-3 times a week.
Well, I don't want you can't testify as to hearsay what he said. So you didn't see Dr. Atchison? Or you did?
I did.
Okay. But in terms of Dr. Casey, the last time you saw her would have been September 2013. And from what you told us, and I guess from your medical records too, it appears the best results you got, the greatest relief you got, was from Dr. Casey, and I guess Dr. Bowen did some part of that too. Is that right?
It seemed that with Dr. Casey that one therapy did help.
Right.
For a short stint. All of it has just been short stints.
Well, all I know is what you told me in your deposition, that you were pain-free after seeing Mr. Earnshaw.
In 2012.
Okay. And then now you go back to see Dr. Pitchford in March of this year. Is that right?
I did.
And you're saying that's not because of this trial?
It's not because of this trial.
So you went back to because you're having some problems again?
It's been a constant problem.
Okay, so even though you got a better result from Dr. Casey and Dr. Bowen, you decided to go back to Dr. Pitchford.
I do trust Dr. Pitchford, absolutely. I do trust, except for training, I do trust those doctors. I'm trying to stick with one with that's the best proximity to us that I can get to, that is convenient, not convenient, but that works with our family.
So even though Dr. Casey gave you the best result, you decided not to go with her and instead went to Dr. Pitchford.
Dr. Casey is no longer at the rehab institution.
Well, she's still in the area at all?
No.
Well, you know what? That's a fascinating place. They have other physiatrists here. Did you ask for any physiatrists?
I have not.
Did you ask for any physiatrists at Northwestern?
I have not.
You know, there's physiatrists in the region, too. Did you ask for any physiatrists here?
I have not.
How about going back to Garen Earnshaw? Did you go back there instead?
I can't just go to him for that.
Well, you can if a doctor writes you a script.
That's correct.
So you never went back to Mr. Earnshaw?
I have not.
Okay. And so you contend that your visit with Dr. Pittsford here in the last year had nothing to do with the trial?
Correct.
Now, I know you showed up at his video deposition. Is that right?
Yes.
And you actually had met with him before the deposition, too?
No, I did not.
Well, you had prepared notes for him. Is that right?
I did.
And in fact, while you're at the deposition, the doctor started testifying, but he wasn't testifying from his own chart. Remember that?
I do.
He was testifying from your notes.
Well, I don't
Things
know
you
why.
thought.
I don't know why he didn't have his own chart out.
Okay, well, remember your attorney, when I offered to give the doctor my copy of his chart, your attorney didn't want me to. Remember that?
I don't.
Okay, well, we'll see it on the video.
Okay.
It's there. So in any event, but you wrote up notes for the doctor, and what you wrote notes to give the doctor your timeline and your interpretation of where you've been and what happened.
I don't remember an interpretation. I think it was more of just a timeline. Just as the saying of the timeline like we have here.
You don't have any statements in there about what you think happened or what the doctor said or what you believe it was to be, things of that nature?
I don't have a copy of that, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, we moved it into evidence that day, and so it'll be seen, by the jury. All right. Well, did anyone ask you to prepare that document for the doctor?
No, I was just trying to keep straight of what happened, just as I've done in the case.
So the doctor certainly didn't answer that.
No. I haven't talked to the doctor before.
How did you get that to the doctor before his deposition?
I had it out with us when we were sitting, waiting. I don't know how I got it.
So you didn't give it to him?
No,
Did you give it to your attorney?
I don't remember.
Well, the doctor had to get it from somewhere. I didn't have it. I never saw it until. Remember, at the end of the deposition, I said, "Doctor, what were you looking at before?" And he said, "His notes." And at first, I thought they were his notes, and I thought they were Mr. Guzman's notes, and I find out they're actually your notes. So it wasn't me. I didn't give him those things. In fact, I didn't see it all the day of the deposition, but only after the transcript was read.
I'm going to interject, Your Honor, and just give me a narrative. This is question and answer and he's going on, kind of what his thoughts are and mental impressions.
I'll just move on to the next one.
Okay.
So you don't know how the doctor got that note from you?
No.
So you had it 1 minute and then it was gone? While you're at the doctor's deposition, is that the first time you heard that you had condylation?
Yes.
And of course, you talked about plica again,
Correct.
and you talked about tendonitis,
Correct.
and you talked about soft tissue contusion.
Yes.
And did I say bursitis?
No, you did not.
Okay. And you talked about bursitis, right?
Yes.
And we had our little medical lesson there from the doctor, but basically a history is everything you tell the doctor about where you've been and what's happened to you.
Correct.
Is it fair to state you told the doctor, yeah, I felt the grocery store.
Yes, I did.
And you told the doctor that's the only accident, that you had involving your knee.
Correct.
But she didn't tell him about any other accidents you had.
Like what?
Oh, that you were in a car accident in 4th grade where you had some injuries.
Those have all been out there.
Pardon?
Those have all, have you done anything to affect your knee? No.
Well, did you tell Dr. Fisher that you were in an auto accident when you were in fourth grade, where you were injured?
I don't remember.
Did you tell Dr. Fisher you were in an auto accident in seventh grade where you were injured?
And I hurt my neck and shoulders and those. I don't.
Did you tell him about that auto accident?
I doubt it.
Did you tell him about the auto accident in eighth grade where you were injured?
My neck and shoulders. I doubt it.
And I know you had another auto accident when you were expecting your son. Did you tell the doctor about that at all?
I don't remember.
So as far as the doctor knew, the only accident you ever had was this incident at the Stack and Van Hill store.
To my knee. Yes.
Okay, but you didn't tell him about any other accidents where you were injured?
I don't recall if I wrote that on my history sheet or not.
Okay. All right, well, we can look at this chart. That's an evidence too. So before I forget, back to the scene. The pizza eating man. Did you tell Alana that this pizza eating man stood there and didn't come to help me?
I did not.
Did you tell that to Gavin?
I did not.
You didn't complain about that at all as the store employee?
My knee hurt so bad. That was all I was thinking about.
So you never told him anything about this pizza eating man and his failure to do anything to help you?
No.
Well, how about a week later? Did you call Alana and say, hey, there was this guy just standing there eating pizza for forever and he didn't do anything to help me?
No, I did not.
Weren't you a little angry that an employee would just stand there and watch you fall and just look at you?
I was angry watching it happen, yes. My knee hurt so bad. That was my only thought. I heard her ask him, did you see her fall? And he said no. And I'm just sitting there like, you have got to be kidding me. But why have that confrontation with him? It doesn't matter. He just told me.
I wasn't asking you to have a confrontation with him. The first we heard of this pizza eating man watching you and doing nothing was yesterday. This incident happened
No, it wasn't.
back in August of 2009. You certainly had an opportunity in the meantime to call up Strack and Van Til and complain. You've got an employee that doesn't do his job. You never did it, did you?
I did not call and complain about that employee. That is not me. I would not call and say, he's not doing his job. Maybe you should fire him. Maybe you should ask him more questions about what he was doing. Because it wasn't working. She said that you can't eat on the floor. He was.
Certainly seems a reasonable thing to do. If those things happen, I would expect you to respond in that fashion. But you didn't. Is that right?
Right. I did not call to get him in trouble or get him fired from his job.
I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Can we direct?
Thank you.
On cross-examination, we covered with you everything from the beginning of the date of the accident right down to today. Correct. So an awful lot of ground here to cover. And I need to ask you, when you were given the chance for him to do anything but answer the direct question.
Objection to the form of the question, Judge.
Excuse me, just ask the question.
All right. I want to ask you from the beginning some of the things that he fired into, all right? On the day of the fall, were you able to see anything on that floor as you approached the place where you slipped and fell?
It couldn't have been seen by the way the floor was, the reflections, the shine, the color of the tile, it could not have been seen.
Yes, sir.
Can you see, do you have those pictures that put on the Elmo? Why don't you use that? Put these on there, Paul. Probably see them a lot. Well, whatever you do.
Can you see that already?
I can.
Can you see this? That's good.
I can see it.
Oh, these are gonna bounce between her and us.
I can see it.
If you want to put
Yeah.
if you want to put these on the screen,
Yeah, you can see that as well. There's actually a better focus on the enlargement stretch. And slightly different framing.
you want to
We
use.
use both, it's clear though.
You can use both.
Thank you.
Judge, if you just activate your tablet on the Elmo, that's one on the top. That's Apple TV.
Oops.
Back to seal. And then all the way to the right.
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. Okay.
We have
Can you see it?
Let's concentrate primarily on what the floor looked like to you right immediately before you fell. So between the Exhibit 6 and the, I think that's 6, is that number 6? C6.
C6.
And the floor, this was the view that was looking for the front of the store, correct?
Correct.
So when you were approaching the place where you fell, you were coming you're coming into the picture. In other words,
Yes.
you're facing, we're taking, this photograph was taken from the other side of where you fell as you approached. But was your view of the floor and the place where you fell the same as you see in the picture?
I'm sorry. I'm not following the question.
As you approach this area where you fell, the floor primarily, was that what it appeared to be to you as you approached it?
Yes.
With the lights on it?
Yes.
And in that picture, can you see any water?
I cannot see any water in this picture.
This was cleaned up.
But,
Would you let me finish?
let me finish this question.
This was after you fell, however, and this was after the training was cleaned up, right? Correct?
I don't know if this is after the water was cleaned up or not. I know the cones are out, but I don't know if this was before or after they cleaned it up. It looks the same.
If the cones are up, it's a presumption that there's a danger there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So even though this was allegedly cleaned up, it still thought it was necessary to put out cones for some reason.
That's
Correct?
correct.
And that could well be why, because it was still damp, still wet.
It may have been, I don't know where I stayed.
Well, at least they thought it was necessary to put up the cones after the fell. Correct? And So as you were approaching this area from coming forward into the picture here, this was a view that you saw approximately right before you fell, right?
Correct.
And you say that you could not see any water on the floor where you finally fell, correct?
That's correct.
And again, why was that?
Because of the reflections and the shininess of the tile, and it couldn't be seen.
And water is what color?
Transparent.
Transparent. So all you saw was what? The tile, color of the tile,
Yes.
and the lights on the tile are not.
Right, the reflections off from that case.
And you had nothing in your hands, nothing wrong with your eyesight,
Correct.
but all of a sudden you fell on something.
Yes.
When you fell on, when you stepped and fell, you said your right leg went up and you fell in a sitting position on your left knee. Your left knee went down.
Right leg went out, left knee went down.
Did you know what had happened at that point?
No, I didn't.
What did you know?
As that was happening, I had a dress on, and I had made eye contact with the employee that was sitting there. I'm thinking, holy crap, I don't know what he's going to see. And I put my hand down and went back to my butt, and that was where I stayed. And that spot that came out of my knee was instantly, my knee was instantly showing me. And that was it until the kids came down by then.
So you had instant pain.
Instant.
And were you confused?
Yes.
Were you able to tell what happened at that point?
I didn't know. Obviously, I slipped on something because I slipped for a little bit with that right leg. But I didn't know what I had slipped in.
Prior to you falling down, you made eye contact with the young fellow who had been at this place who had been to the front left as you approached, correct?
If we're looking at this picture, he would be like over my shoulder here to the right.
So he would be over here somewhere.
Yeah, but further this way. Like from the cart
Off of the
off the picture, yes.
And you saw him there as you approached the area that you ultimately found.
Yes. Yes.
And when you saw him, where were you? Well, when was the first time you saw him?
As we were coming into the aisle.
So before you even fell, he was at the beginning of this aisle as you were going toward the front of the store. Before you realized that you had forgotten names, correct?
Correct.
And at that time, what was he doing?
He was talking with the pizza lady and eating pizza.
He was eating pizza.
Right. Which honestly, to me, is no big deal. I mean, it's no big deal that he's staying there having
Now,
pizza.
check the narrative.
Sustained.
Did you then proceed down the aisle?
Yes.
And at that time, you were literally past the place where you fell, ultimately, correct? But that was on the other side of the aisle.
Correct.
And what, if anything, was between you and viewing the place where you ultimately fell as you were going to the front of the store?
Tim in the car.
Tim's a pretty big fellow.
Yes.
How tall was he?
6'9".
And he was to your left,
Correct.
Harvard there.
Yes.
Did you have any view of this area where you ultimately fell when you were going toward the front of the store?
No.
Because Tim was blocking your view in the car. Is that it?
Correct.
And you got down to the end, almost to the end of the aisle, and then you remembered you got to go back to 58, correct?
Yes.
You turned around and you came back toward the back of the store.
Yes.
And the back of the store is in the foreground here. Is that right?
Yes.
So the area is right immediately across from this aisle.
Right at the end of the aisle.
Somewhere in front of the picture which isn't shown, correct?
Yes.
At any time that you were walking back toward the back of the store, Were you able to see any water?
Couldn't have seen.
Okay. Why again couldn't you see it even at the other end?
It's been asked and answered multiple times.
No, it wasn't.
Overruled.
Not at-
Overruled. Go ahead.
At the beginning of the aisle, when you first started to come back up.
When I was coming back
Yes.
to get the eggs.
Yes.
The reflections and the shine down that floor, it hit it. It could not convince me. I wouldn't walk in the water. I wouldn't walk into it knowing that it was there.
And you weren't walking in any water until you came to the point where you
Correct.
And when you came back, were you walking closer to the frozen food cases or more to the middle of the aisle?
I was closer to those cases in the picture.
All right. But you didn't encounter any water. You were wearing socks, is that what it's called?
The sandals?
Sandals.
With black foot. Black.
Did you have any hose on the socks?
No,
Do you have any water on your feet?
I did not.
Everything was normal, so
Yes.
you normally watch where you're going?
Yes.
Were you keeping best of lookout as you were permitted to have on that date?
Absolutely.
And that location and that location?
Absolutely.
Had you known or could have seen water was there, would you walk in it?
No,
This was the farthest thing from your mind, I trust, is that right?
it was.
And when you got closer to the point where you finally fell, that was the first time, whether you knew it or not, that your feet encountered water.
That's correct.
And at that time, as I recall your testimony and cross-examination, you were saying your old friend, the pizza guy, before eating pizza.
Yes.
Was he still eating pizza?
And he was still standing there.
All the time that you approached him from the back of the store and went all the way back there and turned around and came back to where you followed, he was still there.
Correct.
Had you seen him earlier
That day,
in the store? Yes.
that I don't recall if he saw him earlier or not. I didn't see him earlier. He was just an employee that I've seen numerous
You've
times.
seen him on prior occasions.
Correct.
So you recognized he was an employee of the store.
Yes.
And when you got to the place just a minute before you fall, did you make eye contact with him before you fell, or were you while you were in the process of falling?
As that right foot went outside, and was when I made eye contact with him going down.
And at that point, you had a lady's concern.
I did. I was embarrassed, and I'm kind of not an embarrassed kind of girl, but I was embarrassed thinking of what he was going to see.
When he was making eye contact, did he make eye contact with you? In other words, you saw his eyes looking at you.
He looked at me.
He had pizza in his hand?
That I don't remember.
He was still next to the pizza stand.
Yes.
And as you went down, was he looking at you?
Yes.
And you
That was
said-
that eye contact and that
You still had eye contact.
feel of embarrassment coming.
So that was the overwhelming thought at that time. My gosh, she's going to see me falling and maybe be embarrassed.
Yes.
And when you did go down, did you have the misfortune of having anything show that you would be embarrassed about?
Objection, relevancy.
Well, she's been talking about being embarrassed. Overruled.
All right.
I don't remember. I'm sure because my dress came up, not the full way, but my dress came up. So after I had fallen and the pain started, that was the furthest thing from my mind at that time.
Was he watching you as you fell down?
Yes, it was.
Was he still watching you as you finally came to rest on the floor?
Yes.
And did he come over to help?
No, he did not.
What happened to him?
I don't know. He was there. I wasn't sure why he wasn't helping. When Alina had asked him, if he saw me fall, and he said no. I mean, I'm just sitting there dumbfounded, like, you saw me fall. But, I mean, you know, like they said, why didn't you call the store and complain about it?
Objection, non-responsive, narrative.
Sustained. Good.
Well, proper objection of non-responsive for the person asking the question.
The objection was sustained, Your Honor.
I mean, as far as her going into why she didn't call the store, if you want to get into that, he got into it.
All right,
But
thank you. Mr. Pollack said, why didn't you complain about the boy watching you not helping at the scene of the fall? Remember that?
I did,
Why did you not do that?
because I wouldn't, that's not going out. I'm not going to call you out because you're not doing your job right there. I mean, she asked him if he saw me, and he said no. What am I going to do? Yell at him and say, you saw me, you saw me?
Objection, narrative, beyond the scope of the question.
Did you,
sustained.
thank you. At that point, was that the farthest thing from your mind?
Yes.
What were you most concerned about?
The pain in my knee and the safety of my kids walking around where it was so wet.
All right. And what happened after that? When you were on the floor and were you helpless to get up?
I was.
Did you try to get up?
There was no getting up.
And why was that?
Because of the lump sticking out of my knee and my knee not bending, and yes, I stayed down where I was.
Okay. Because you were hurt.
Yes.
You were afraid you were very seriously hurt.
Yes.
Right? And did you find at that point or any point later that you had water or your dress was damp?
The part of my dress being damp, I don't remember, just because the knee was the focus. I mean, it could have been wet, I don't know. But when Tim came down to me with the kids, you know, we're trying to figure out what just happened, and, you know, looked around, and there was still water in front of me, so still closer to the back of the store. It seems like I'm going to go get help. And when he went back that way towards the front of the store, because we didn't know if it was like a little puddle of water, like what it was that I fell in. And it continued down the aisle towards the front of the aisle.
How did you know that?
From Tim seeing it as he was going, he's like, it's there, it's there, it's there. But then when he turned and looked, you could see it.
So although you couldn't see it before, once you had fallen in it and Tim went back and
I knew something was there.
then you were able to have a closer look to see, but
Correct.
not something you can see before you fell.
No.
Correct?
No.
If you would have seen it, would you have walked with it?
No.
This is not about you trying to deliberately fall and make money.
No.
You're here today because why?
Because this is the truth. And they're saying everything that you said.
Objection, non-responsive, narrative.
Why he asked her why she's here? Overruled, let her answer.
We're here today because Tim and I have been telling the truth since this stupid day. And Strax has...
Objection as to any characterization as to what Strax or what you think Strax does or does not do.
representatives...
Your Honor?
Well, ma'am, unless you know what Strax did, you can't characterize. That's up to the jury to decide.
Right. You're here today because it was necessary for you to file a lawsuit. Correct. And you suffered significant pain and suffering in this accident. You had permanent injury, correct? And you sought my services because you needed compensation for your injuries, correct?
Correct.
And none was forthcoming before that, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
When Kim went forward and saw the water all the way down the aisle in front of these frozen food cases, he said he was pointing it out to you as he went. Eventually, the assistant manager came along and the manager in training began the probe, right?
Yes.
And did they, did you hear them talk to well, we call him the patient boy. Did you hear any conversation?
I overheard Alana ask the employee that was staying there if he saw me fall, and he said no.
And then what happened to him?
He just stood there. I watched. He moved a little bit closer after the incident happened and after they came down. He moved a little bit closer, but after she asked him that question, I don't know where he was at after that.
Did he stop eating pizza when she arrived?
He did.
You had a conversation, or at least you heard Alana saying things to you and for others to hear when she first came upon the scene, correct? And tell us what it is that you heard her say.
That as she came down the aisle and was closer to where Tim and I and the kids were, that she looked down both ways and said, "Look at all this water." I believe she saw exactly the same thing by what words she said when she was standing there.
Now, you heard that she is now saying that there was no water that was cleaned up before she got there.
That's right.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Because she commented that there was, in fact, water all the way down the aisle, just like that up.
She did.
Did she say anything about getting it cleaned up?
Yes.
So apparently, from what you've heard from her, the water was still on the
Objection.
floor.
Witness hasn't testified yet.
And she saw it.
Well, she did
Alana
testify.
hasn't testified. He said from what she said.
Well,
She's a party, overruled.
okay. Remember the question?
No.
Would you read it back to her, please?
That's the question that he asked. He went further back than that.
I didn't have the part marked up.
It wasn't that far back. It was right before its objection.
You hear that last question?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Alana was there before that water was cleaned up. She saw it, and I don't know if it was her or somebody else asked for the guys to come and clean up the mess afterwards.
At that point, there was no cones put up.
There were no.
Warning.
No,
So cones that are in the warning devices that are in the picture had not yet been put up because it hadn't been cleaned up yet, correct?
I'm sorry.
Apparently, when she came and saw the water, the cones were not there.
Correct.
So it had not yet been cleaned up.
Correct. The water had not yet been cleaned up.
We were still on the floor at this point?
Yes, because I think Alana was the one that, I don't know if she brought the chair when she came right then, but I think Alana was the one that brought me the chair to sit down.
Were you able, on your own or with Tim, to stand up before they brought the chair to you?
No.
Well, you had to stand up to get in the chair.
Right, Tim helped me stand
So at
up.
some point in time, he helped you up.
Oh, he did, yes.
And at that point, did people come out to mop up the water?
Yes,
You saw that.
yes.
And they're mopping up the water where?
They started, or I don't know if they started, I remember looking down and seeing the boy towards the end, towards the third cone, and they had a mop, like not a flat mop, like a dry mop, but they were going back and forth across the floor with.
One person.
I don't remember. I know one for sure. I don't remember if there were two.
So he started to mop up the water way at the far end near the front of the store.
That was my recollection of seeing
And then
somebody.
did he come forward toward you?
Absolutely. Because when I kept trying to grab the hold on to the kids, make sure they didn't slip in water.
And did he mop up the water all the way up until he got to you?
Around, but
Now, from what I recall of the testimony, you were able to get him to sit in the chair almost adjacent to where you fell, right?
correct.
So how was he able to get the water that you had fallen in mopped up?
That I don't remember.
At some point in time, he got closer to the water.
Correct.
You had to get out of the way for him to finish the job.
Again, that I don't remember. That pain in my knee took over.
This time, what was the state of your mind? What were you thinking about at that time?
The pain, how to make it go away, and save my kids standing around with us.
And then at that point, was your husband there with his?
Yes,
And was he cautioning them about the water?
yes, it was.
So the water was being cleaned up while Alana and Dad and Pearl were still there.
Yes,
And then, while they were still there, did somebody come out and put up the warning signs?
yes,
They put them up all the way to the end of the aisle to pick the truck.
correct.
All right. While the water was being mopped up, what happened to the employee who was eating pizza?
I don't know, like I said, after Alana had asked him if he saw me fall, I don't know where he went after that point.
He disappeared, right?
I don't remember seeing him.
But he was there and you saw him and then he was not there.
Correct.
Somebody brought a chair, and then the next thing that happened was they started to take a statement from him, right?
they were taking a statement, yes, as it was getting cleaned up.
You were still in pain?
Yes.
Did they know you were in pain?
I would hope they knew I was in pain.
How would they know?
By the look on my face, by the ice pack on my knee, it hurts.
Were you crying at the time?
I know I had tried to stop crying as the kids came around because they get upset when I cry. So, I know when I cry, my face gets red and puffy and whatever, splotchy, but
This is a picture of Independence Exhibit C2. And this was almost immediately after you fell and you were sitting in the chair at that point, correct?
yes,
Were you in pain at that time?
yes,
Were you crying at that time?
yes.
Now, while you were in pain and crying, they were trying to take a statement from you.
Correct.
Were you thinking about things that would get the store into trouble, or why did they allow this, or why did they pull a piece of boy and not help you?
No, I was not.
And at some point in time after they took the statement, strike that. Did Alana say that we can get an ambulance for you?
I remember them asking us if we wanted an ambulance, but we said no.
What did you want to do at that point?
Get the hell out of there.
Go where?
Home.
Why?
Get my kids home. Get changed, get my leg up.
The farthest thing from your mind under those circumstances to talk about who said what and who saw what.
Yes.
You didn't have the opportunity to have a clear mind to know or even care about those things. Are you lying about any of these things? You know that there is going to be testimony that a lot of things you said are not true. Has everything you told us here today true? Do you have any motive to lie?
No.
Are you, you've never filed a lawsuit against anybody for something to fall in a store, correct? And the motive wasn't to stage an accident or a fall so you can make money, is that correct? You could have your knee and your health back before all this and be happy not to be here, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, opposing counsel also said that when you saw your Dr. Pittsburgh, you didn't mention that you had had some other accidents.
Right, this car accidents from when I was a kid.
As a matter of fact, he asked you if you told him about an accident you had in the 4th grade.
Right.
How old are you when you're in the 4th grade?
9, 10.
You were 34 at the time.
Right.
Right. My arithmetic says, what, 23 years ago? What kind of accident was that when you were 9 years old?
The accident, the 4th and 7th grade accidents, I was rear-ended while in the car, passenger with my dad, and the next one was with my mom. We were rear-ended, and it was, like just upper neck and shoulder.
You in the back seat?
No, I think I was in the front seat in both instances, both accidents.
You belted?
I don't know. It was a long time ago. I don't know if I was seatbelted or not.
All right. But more importantly, did you hurt your knee, your left knee, or any part of your body below your waist?
No.
So when opposing counsel asked you why you didn't tell the doctor about that particular accident. Why didn't you?
Because I wasn't hurt in any of these accidents.
So you didn't think it was relative or important to bring up things that were so far ago and
Correct.
had nothing to do with your injury, right? Then you said you had an automobile accident when you were in 7th grade.
Right.
How old were you when you were in the 7th grade? I don't keep track of these things.
12, 13.
All right. What kind of accident was that?
That one, the 4th grade, was a rear end, and that one, I was passenger in the back seat of the car with my aunt and uncle, and we got hit inside the car.
Were you injured?
No,
Your knee?
no,
Anything below your waist?
no.
And so you thought that was not relevant to your complaints when you were seeing Dr. Pitchford or any other doctor?
Correct.
Is that correct?
It had no relevance to that area of my body. If it did, I would completely understand that.
Then you said you had an accident when you were in the injury.
That one was a rear end of the car.
And then you had an accident when you were expecting your son.
Yes.
What year would that be?
08, 2008.
And what kind of accident was that?
We were rented, I was driving, my mother was in the car, and Olivia, she was 4 then, she was in the back seat. And we were rear-ended. It was on a Sunday, Cole was due Thursday, that following Thursday, and I was taken to the hospital in ambulance because I started with contractions immediately from the seatbelt, muscle down. But that was it.
Nothing with respect to your left knee
No.
or your right? Again, it was not relevant insofar as this particular injury is concerned. Correct? So it was not that you were withholding information from the doctor that was relevant.
Not at all. Right.
Incidentally, any of these automobile accidents you filed any lawsuits over?
No.
Make any claims?
No.
You were injured in a rear-end accident and you didn't make any claims?
Objection, relevancy.
You looked it up.
Well, I mean, it's the
Overruled.
action itself.
Okay.
Going on,
Overruled.
when you left the Stratton until this was what, approximately 11 o'clock or 11:30?
It was after 11:30 by that time.
And you fell at approximately what time?
It was about quarter to 11, type of 11, something like that.
And you heard comments about sweeping schedules and exhibits showing sweeping schedules.
Yes.
Irrespective of what those sweeping schedules show, those exhibits, is your testimony, your truthful testimony that water was there when you came upon the premises and it was not cleaned up before you traveled. It wasn't cleaned up when you entered that aisle.
No, it wasn't.
But there was an employee of the store that was right there at the top of the aisle.
Yes.
And even looking in your direction as you approached it. Correct?
Yes. Correct.
To your knowledge, well, he didn't warn you about the water. Right?
Correct.
He saw you go down there, and you still didn't come over and help.
Correct.
Now, opposing counsel said, why did you call Stratton Van Tills after the accident and complain about the fact that he didn't help, or that he did see you fall, he was there, they were there? Did you have an obligation to do that?
No, I don't.
So,
Calling And complaining about an employee isn't making pain in my knee go away or any of that better. I mean, it's just,
With a lot of Roberson or Gavin, manager and trainer, or anybody from class, call you, ask you how you do it.
no, I don't want to.
They offer to pay for your medical bills.
Yes.
When?
That day of the accident, alone I did.
But you never heard from them after that about paying for your medical bills.
No,
To this day, they never paid a dime for your medical bills.
correct.
Never paid a dime for your pain and suffering. And for your permanent impairment. That's right. Now, opposing counsel got into a long timeline list of your treatment. And did you go to the day that afternoon of the accident? Do I remember correctly, you went to the emergency care?
I went to immediate care
Immediate care.
that day, yes,
And why did you have to do that?
because I needed to see if there was something immediately wrong that needed to be addressed. I also got some pain meds, which, to try and take some of that edge off because of how bad it hurt, to try and reduce the swelling that was there, everything.
All right. And after that, you then began a course of treatment and seeking help with the doctor.
Yes.
Why?
It's just trying to relieve the pain.
Having pain every day and every night after that.
Yes, there was a very small stint where I didn't have pain. It was wonderful, but the rest of it was pain. I mean, every day still.
And that was after you had some physical therapy. You had your pain free for about 2 weeks.
It was different. The physical therapies, the one that lasted the longest of pain-free was with Darren Earnshaw. That one in October. He was the best one, but of the other ones, it would not go away. It wasn't gone. It would reduce, and then that was when it started coming back.
So even though you were getting some relief, it wasn't 100% relief.
Correct.
And even during that time, that pain buffers.
Yes.
About what were they then?
On a regular day, it'd be between 3, 4, 5, and on its worst, 8, 9. I even the 10, and I was going to 10 in my
And
ear.
all the time you were treating with all these doctors up to today, they never were completely pain-free.
Just for that small stint with that.
But it was
otherwise,
only,
no.
but you weren't pain-free, you reduced it 2, 3, 4, 5,
It was
etc.
Right, right.
So is it fair to say that every day since the accident you've had one?
Yes.
Every day since the fall? This wasn't
Yes,
an accident.
it was an
was
accident. Right, it was a fall, yes.
This wasn't an accident, was it? Somebody's at fault.
Jackson, also, we
There
were
was
going
a-
to
Yes,
the
let's-
province, move to strike.
Sustained.
And there was water on the floor.
Yes,
That's back in Manitoba on August 16, 2009.
yes.
That you couldn't see. Were you in any way at fault in bringing about your...
Objection.
Sustained.
You went through, saying a number of doctors, referred you to a number of doctors, and they were trying to find out what was wrong, correct?
Correct.
A number of things the doctors thought could be the problems turned out.
Some were the problem, and they addressed it, and other ones, they were just trying to help relieve the pain, the most, which Tim and I both wanted the most least invasive that we can get to improve that.
Now, opposing counsel talked to you about you went from one doctor to the other. Was this going from one doctor to the other something that was your choice that you were choosing to do, or they were being recommended by the doctors that were treating you?
I mean, going from Tremaine to Pittsburgh, Tremaine's girl said, "You're not getting the right attention here. Go to Pittsburgh." You know, and I was with Pittsburgh for a long time, and he had suggested that those injections, and I was looking to, and he had told Dr. Pittsburgh too, he said, you know, we're just going to make sure that this is the best way to go, because those injections aren't just something light to do. You know, I mean, the way they do it. And
Objection as to the witness describing medical procedures.
As you went through the
I've had this
procedure?
medical.
Yeah, overruled.
Go ahead.
You know, they likely sedate you, but they, you know, it's guided by ultrasound, it's guided by live x-ray, you know, it's don't move this instant, don't move anything, because they're shooting in the injection, the Synvis is the product, but we were trying to find something that wasn't as, you know, quote, like a big deal. We were trying to find something that would help relieve the pain and not be to that stage. So that was why we were trying to make sure that these injections were the way to go.
All right. So, seeing these various doctors and therapists and what have you, were a combination of what was referred by other physicians and for you trying to find the least invasive and conservative course of treatment.
Yes.
You weren't looking for surgery.
No.
But ultimately it had to happen.
Yes.
And Dr. Pittsburgh did 2 procedures, correct?
He did the 2 scope stress.
All right. Counsel suggested that you went to see Dr. Pittsburgh most recently, and it was preparation for this trial. Remember that? Was it? This was an ongoing course of treatment with a number of doctors, including Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Something also in you had rather tragedy in your family that for a while.
Objection, relevancy, Judge? I don't know what it is.
Well, let's see what, yes.
Did you have a tragedy in your
Mr. Kuzman, you want to approach the bench?